So today was one of those days where I was feeling very unmotivated to train, very lethargic generally, and just could not be asked to go to the gym or leave the flat. But I know from experience, like if I just get my arse to the gym and start moving around and get the blood flowing, I generally start to get motivated and feel a little bit better anyway. So that's what I did. And in certain circumstances, if like I'm feeling niggles or aggravated or anything, I generally just go in there with the mindset to do what I can and at least try to get the bare minimum done. And that was what I did today. I'm feeling okay, no niggles or anything, actually feeling really good. Just probably more mentally fatigued than anything. So the aim was just to get in there, get the bare minimum done, which is the main stuff, the meaty part of the session, get some stretching in, get some movement in, and then get out and go home. And I think part of the reason why I'm feeling a bit mentally fatigued today is because of, obviously now I'm 8 weeks into Muay Thai and I'm starting to learn a lot more with it. And I think a lot of the fatigue is coming from that, because where I'm trying to learn a new skill, I'm starting to see the gaps where I am compared to other more experienced people, and they're reacting a lot faster and they're not thinking as much about what they're doing, they're more flowing into it. Whereas like where I'm still learning, I have to like go there and be super focused, be thinking about every little thing that I'm doing, or you get kicked or you get punched or whatever. So it's still that learning curve that I have to get over, and it's like super taxing mentally, which is all good. I'm enjoying it. It's not a complaint. It's just, it is what it is. Like compared to like weightlifting and training generally now, I don't have to think as much. Everything's kind of like an autopilot for me. I can just get into flow state quite quickly if I just get my body moving, get some music on. And once I start lifting, everything's a little bit more fluid. Whereas obviously compared to when I'm in class with the guys at Muay Thai, I have to like be super focused, and that's quite mentally fatiguing as well. So I think it was more a case of that today. I do like to start every session with some stretching. Obviously it depends on how much I'm doing. If I'm doing a little bit, I'll just do a little bit of stretching, but generally like my Monday session and my Friday session, I like to do quite a bit of stretching, maybe 30 minutes of stretching work and foam rolling just to loosen off. And it's always a indicator of how I'm feeling that day and how the body's feeling. But even today, like even though I was like quite unmotivated and lethargic, once I started stretching out, I was like, oh, I'm not really that stiff. I'm actually quite loose and a bit more mobile. So that was like a good sign in terms of going into the session. Some sessions I'll go in there and like, damn, I'm so stiff, like everything's so hard to do. I can't like get into these positions. And I think stretching is generally quite underrated in a sense that not a lot of people do it, and they think it's like this thing that doesn't have any benefit to it. But well, it depends on who you are as well. Like for someone like me who's a bit like, I'm 100 kg, right? So if you're like a 60 kg girl and you're naturally more flexible, you probably don't need to do as much stretching as I do. But where like my legs are quite thick, my back is very like dense, I have to spend some time just opening up my posterior chain, loosening off all the fascia there and the muscle, and my erector spinae get quite tight, so it's like I need to loosen off the back side of my body, and also like open out the front side of my body as well, and my hips. Did quite a lot of ankle work today as well, before I even touched the barbell. So I think like stretching is like a super underrated tool anyway. And it's going to help you, like it feels good, isn't it? So anything that feels good is always going to have merit to it, especially around training. And doing some stretching allows me to get into positions that I wouldn't easily access without some stretching. I mean, I could just go and start squatting, like for example, but it'd probably take me like 3 to 4 sets to get as loose as I need to be, and I feel like it's wasted if I can just spend like 20 to 30 minutes stretching. I know once I start on the bar, I'm going to be super loose, and I'm going to be engaged, blood is going to be flowing, and I'm going to be feeling good. So that's why I do it. So once I'm done stretching out, which is like first part of the session, I then move on to more dynamic things, focusing on areas that help stabilize, especially my hips. Obviously, I did some calf raises, which I feel is a super underrated movement. I think it's so simple that people just totally overlook it, but obviously it helps to develop your ankle capacity, tendons, foot strength, all of that sort of stuff. And then obviously I'm doing unilateral hip thrust here, just getting the glutes fired up, ensure my hip is nice and warm and stuff like that. And then obviously I'm doing a little bit of core stuff as well here. So we're using this is band reach dead bugs to hollow hold. So it's like multiple things going on here. Main reason I'm doing it is because it helps get me out of extension and more into like posterior expansion. Also working those deep muscles, getting some blood flow into the trunk as well. Mostly with my spine injury, I'm still healing. Anything I can do to get me out of extension is going to just help free up space in my lumbar area, and I'm also going to move a bit more freely. So obviously part of this prehab stuff is now more about stabilizing certain areas, strengthening, engaging, getting some blood flow in, and just starting to prep more for the session. And this probably takes me like another 20 minutes or so. And obviously I know everyone hasn't got this amount of time to dedicate to all of these things, but I allow the time for me to do this and explore a lot of these movements and exercises and parts of the puzzle, so I can help my clients and just gain experience in terms of injury rehab, what works, what's effective, what doesn't work. Then we move on to some lateral stuff. So at the moment I'm using hip abduction. I've dropped out adduction for the moment, just so I can work the adduction in a stretched position like here. So on the hip abduction machine, I think I do one set AMRAP, and I think I did 33 reps there. And then going into these plyo box adductor raises, I'll do like one set of 10 each side, and that just helps to strengthen my adductors in that stretched position where they're going to be at the bottom of a squat, and that's the position where they're usually quite weak. And I haven't done the hip abduction machine for a little while now, just because I think I'm strong enough in that shortened position. So across the week I'm doing like about 3 to 5 different movements on my adductors, and they're all like length and range, different angles. I did some adductor stuff at the end of the session, but I didn't film it, so this is just the prehab stuff you're going to see for the adductors. Okay, last bit or last section of my like warm up before I actually start holding a barbell, and started with some low tier plyometrics, change of direction work, and then moving into some deep tier stuff here, working with a split exchange, and I'm using body weight and weighted, kind of alternating those sets, and also just getting the benefits of the plyometric work and that tendon and joint capacity. These are a lot harder than they look, and my legs burn like fuck doing these all the time, but I'm feeling the benefits, and it's carrying over to weightlifting. It's also actually carried over to Muay Thai, which is interesting, especially with the footwork and being able to move your feet around quite quickly. So I'm noticing there's a benefit there to it as well. Right, so onto barbell work. Every session, same thing here, just habit. Starting a session with empty barbell, working on pulling the shoulder blades up, elevating the rib cage, these upper body mechanics in the third pull, which is an area that evades a lot of people when they first learn weightlifting. And you got to realize that kind of like moving the bar from the floor to your knee and then trying to extend on the bar is not terribly difficult. What's quite hard is moving under the bar and actually keeping the bar close enough and keeping your body in the positions you need to actually receive the bar. And that's where a lot of people fall short. You'll see them leaning back a lot, hitting the bar too low, hitting the bar too hard, and not actually utilizing the shoulder blades, the rib cage, and those upper body mechanics that help you turn over the bar well and move into a good catch position. And that's one of the things like you have to focus on refining to a point where it's ingrained into your body, and you're always keeping the bar close, you're always pulling it back into your body, you're always pulling down underneath the bar, you're always pushing against the bar. And as you can see here, I'm starting with muscle snatch today from the floor. It's no contact, so same principle here. I'm not trying to smash the bar with my hip because I'm not allowed, it's no contact. So this is all about timing my leg extension, my leg drive, and timing it with the second or the third part of the movement, which is the pull under. Obviously with the muscle snatch, I'm not pulling under, I'm pulling up aggressively and pushing up aggressively. And this is a great primer for your main lift for the day. So I had to build to a 1 RM no contact muscle snatch. That was 70. Realistically, I probably wasn't going heavier than 80, so went to 80 kg next. In hindsight, I probably should have tried like 82 or something, 83, but I left it as that, and then moved on to my main list, which was a power snatch 2 RM. I've actually got my hook grip back now, which is fucking brilliant. I've been training for like, I don't know, 7 to 8 weeks with no hook on my snatch work. And after my snatch, power snatch today, I had no hook power cleans. So that threw me off a little bit. Right, starting to get going a little bit now. Obviously working through those power snatches. Obviously for today it's a 2 RM. So whatever I've got for the day, I usually have a number in my head of where I'm going to finish or where I want to finish, depending on how I'm feeling and whatever variation I have for that day and how things have progressed recently. So I would have liked to get 105 double with my hook grip. My PB from Tuesday is a no hook power snatch for 3, so triple at 100 kg. So I was feeling a bit optimistic, but I didn't get the 105. Once I got to 100 kg, things wasn't moving as well as I'd hope in the lift. I was probably rushing it a little bit, which is fine. It's good enough for the day, considering I was feeling very mentally fatigued. So I'm happy to like finish at 100. In hindsight, I probably should have done like a 102 or a 103 for the double, but sometimes you make stupid decisions, innit? And these are the 105 attempts. Clearly just too much for today, pushed me down into a squat. Just didn't have any breaks for it, and then on the second attempt just didn't make it whatsoever. I knew it pushed me down, so I just let it go. And final like main movement for the day is power cleans but no hook, and plus front squat plus power jerk. Right, the reasoning behind the no hook is, I think a lot of people won't need to do this. It's probably for more intermediates, because when you start weightlifting, it's drilled into you to start to use your hook grip, simply because it stops you like over muscling the bar, It keeps your arms loose and whippy, and it forces you to maintain positions, and it keeps you a little bit more it keeps you more efficient in your turnover. But at a point in time, you may want to use no hook, and the reason behind it is that if your timing is not good or efficient, or if you hit the bar too much with your hips, or if you rush underneath things, especially if you hit the bar too hard, the bar is going to move away from you, and your grip is now the limiting factor. So you have to be really efficient and aggressive in your third pull, in terms of pulling the bar into the body, pulling under the bar, pushing into the bar, and you have to work a little bit harder through that phase of the lift with no hook, because you can't rely on your grip being quite relaxed. Your grip is quite aggressive now, and you have to work harder in that pull phase, and that's the whole emphasis behind it. And I know if I approach some of these lifts with too much contact, my hook grip is going to be the limiting factor, and I'm not going to keep the bar close, I'm not going to pull it into position, and it just forces you to be a lot more aggressive in that pulling phase, in terms of pulling the bar under or meeting the bar at the right point. So on this, I had 4 sets to complete. I started at 100, did 110 next, did a 120, and I went for 130. I actually missed the first attempt at 130. The no hook just threw me off guard, and I wasn't pulling on the bar enough. I wasn't pulling in to receive the bar hard enough or more aggressively. I kind of pushed it away from me, and it just fucked me up. But I'll let those play out, and you can see how that goes. At this point, I was done mentally. I'd done all the main things I had to do, so I just did 2 accessories out of maybe the 4 I had to do. And this is one of my favorite ones at the moment, because it helps just get me out of that extension position with my spine and more into posterior expansion, lumbar flexion, and it feels really good after my main lifts. So really enjoying this movement at the moment. And then after this, I did some single leg or unilateral hamstring curls. I've only recently been able to add back in hamstring curls as isolation, simply because it used to hurt my lower back and the spine injury up till about 3-4 weeks ago. So I'm really happy I can train my hamstrings in isolation now, because they're super weak there, and that's pretty positive. That's all, folks. See you on the next one.